So for this week on Cyber Schools, we round out the year for 2022. We're going to talk a little bit about our InformaCast enabled Wi-Fi button. We actually haven't done a specific product highlight in a while, so we're going to talk specifically about this product, what it is, how to use it, and kind of a basic setup. It's a kind of basic product, and it kind of makes sense when you understand the unit. But with that, let's go ahead and get into it. So, what the heck is this product? Well, it's a standard Wi-Fi based event generation button. The button itself is, it runs on regular USB power. It uses a regular, 5-volt USB power supply. It's micro USB specifically. And it also does have a battery backup on there. So it's really useful for any kind of event generation necessary by a button. A lot of the times it's an under desk panic button, but it can be a general assistance button, a help needed button in a specific area, what have you. And with that battery backup that the unit has, that means that the device can continue to work if for some reason it is disconnected from power for up to about 4 hours, depending on how you have the unit configured in terms of LED brightness and all the fun that comes with that. And what's the button do? Well, when you press it, it's going to trigger an event in InformaCast. It's pretty simple where, it's got a single button, you press it, and it can create an event in InformaCast, and that'll be sent out to, however InformaCast is configured. And since it only has a single button, each actual Wi-Fi button can only trigger a single event. So that's why its typical use case is some kind of an assistance style button, whether it's an under desk panic button or a duress button or, a general assistance button, saying like a library or saying a university and somebody needs assistance from tech support. That's where these buttons come in. It's very, very helpful. And a nice thing about this button as compared to some of our other InformaCast enabled product line is this doesn't register or actually require any kind of license or any additional fees to use with InformaCast. As long as you've got a regular InformaCast based system, we can utilize a feature in the InformaCast system and be able to utilize the button without having to say increase the number of licenses or any of the weird subtle nuances that you can run into when you're dealing with accessory products for systems like InformaCast. So how does this thing actually work? Well, it utilizes what's known as the machine-to-machine or M2M interface in the InformaCast environment. Basically, that's just a way that two different devices can talk to each other. Either the machine of InformaCast can talk to a different machine, or another machine can talk to InformaCast. It basically goes either direction. And the way that those typically work, and the way that this button works, is by using an SNMP message. Basically, that's a simple network management protocol message that basically just says an event has occurred at this specific button. And there's specific messages and specific identifiers in each message that's actually sent out to the InformaCast server. So that way the server can recognize and tell the difference between button A and button B. And the server, of course, is going to recognize the button that, sent out the event, and it's going to generate an event based on the configuration that it has for that specific machine-to-machine interface event. And that event, of course, is going to be the typical stuff that you can generate from InformaCast. The standard use cases for stuff like that is just a pre-recorded audio file. So it could be, say, help needed in a specific office or general assistance needed in a library or tech support or what have you. And the nice thing with InformaCast is it can be its standard audio message that's sent out to your various IP speakers, your regular desk phones, but it can also send out text to say any different displays or anything that you might be using. You get the full gambit of capabilities out in the InformaCast system, and we basically just leverage that with a single button press. And then the nice thing on the button end, of course, because it's just a button, it doesn't have a speaker on it, so it can't play the message that it got through InformaCast. And, it doesn't have, a little status symbol on it that, says, message received in a big old green check mark or something like that. It has an optional blink or an actual buzz that it can do when it goes and actually gets a response back from the InformaCast server when it sends out that message. So it can blink in a specific pattern, or the onboard buzzer can kind of buzz and let you know that this occurs. And depending on the use case, you can enable either of these or both of them together, or neither of them if you want it to be a little bit more discreet, where you want to just press the button and you don't need the confirmation that the actual message was received by the InformaCast system. So it's a really cool and very capable style unit. So how does this thing work in terms of setting it up? Because most CyberData products, actually all CyberData products, are going to be PoE based. This one's a little different. So with this one, you need to hook it up to a computer that's actually running what we call our Wi-Fi button utility, and that allows basically the general setup for the unit. So you get it on your Wi-Fi network, you go through the regular setup process like you would for a lot of Wi-Fi based equipment, because you can't just plug it in and then it's magically on the network like the beauty of PoE or power over Ethernet. You got to do a little bit of legwork to get the thing up on the actual network itself. And then once you do that, you basically just point it to the InformaCast server. So that way, when its button is pressed, it sends those messages directly to the InformaCast server. And basically at that point, the button is done. The button's ready to go. You can, of course, configure things like that blink pattern and the buzzer sound for when it actually gets a message back from InformaCast, or if for some reason it doesn't. And really just the rest of the setup is done on the InformaCast-based system. So using some of the unique identifiers that is all present in the documentation for the unit, you just set up you basically set up the machine-to-machine interface on the InformaCast system and configure the type of response you want for the actual InformaCast system to the event from the button. That way, when you press it, it sends out a particular message to whatever message group is supposed to receive that particular message. And then you just install the button. So really easy to go through and set up and actually utilize the thing. But it's always recommended when you go and install this kind of hardware, especially for use in some kind of an emergency scenario, run a test of the button. Press it and make sure that the message goes out. You're happy with the volume levels of everything. You're happy with the group that's notified. And most importantly, make sure that the thing works. Because, in the event of an emergency, depending on the use case for the unit, you want to make sure that that button is up to snuff and is working as expected, because that can be very important in terms of life safety. So at the end of the day, the Wi-Fi button is a super easy to implement and cost-effective option for button-based alerts. While I do love our standard SIP call button, and it can create a similar functionality in the InformaCast system, slightly different, but you can basically get to the same point. You've got your path A, that would be your Wi-Fi button, and your path B, that would be your SIP call button. They can both get you to that same end destination. This one's a little bit easier to implement, and it's a little bit more cost-effective as compared to, say, our standard hardwire button. But there are benefits to going hardwired, but that's outside the scope of what we're talking about today. And this product, while it's mainly designed and mainly implemented as kind of an underdesk panic button, a duress button that you press in the event of an emergency, it doesn't necessarily have to be used in that particular use case, where it can be used for a general assistance button, say in a library, where, say some little old lady's trying to get a cookbook and she can't quite reach the fourth shelf where that cookbook is, or she wants to get something else, or, it's say at a university and somebody needs assistance from, a regular help desk, and they might be out helping somebody in a large student gathering area. You can just press that button and the attendees can know what's going on. It doesn't necessarily have to be a panic button. And with a configurable alert based on the successful events on the button itself, it can be a very discrete option. So again, very good for under-desk panic buttons or duress buttons, or it can just give a really easy to understand notification that something has occurred and an event is going to be going out. Hopefully you're hearing that event through the overhead speaker system, but you'll get some kind of a notification back from the button itself that it worked.
Thank you for watching this edition of Cyber School. If you have any questions, please get in contact with our sales department. They are available by email at sales@cyberdata.net or by phone at 831-373-2601 extension 334. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe for more content like this from CyberData.